Everyone, please confirm, is the screen and audio, video, everything is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. So, good morning to all of you. Let us start today's session. And I hope you all have understood the remaining topic what we have done yesterday, right or not? So, regarding the sample size and the factors affecting the selection of sample size, all these topics we have done yesterday. And today we are going to understand, just wait. Today we are going to understand what? We are going to understand the methods of audit sampling, right? And once the methods of audit sampling will be over, then we'll see what are the other remaining topics left in audit sampling. So in this session, we'll try our level best to complete the topic called audit sampling. And the evening may we are going to start with the topic called analytical procedure, our another standard called SA 520, right? So let us start with the next topic. What is the name of the topic? The name of the topic is methods of audit sampling. Methods of audit sampling. Now, what are the different methods of audit sampling which are available in our portion that we have to understand? Now, see, when we talk about the methods of audit sampling, they are broadly classified. Okay, yeah, they are broadly classified into two types of methods. What are the two types of methods? One are known as random selection methods. Random selection methods. And one are known as class interval methods. One are known as random selection methods and another one are known as class interval methods. Sir, what do you mean by random selection methods? Under the random selection methods, there are two methods. Simple random selection method. And the next one is stratified random selection method. One is known as simple random selection method and the second one is known as stratified random selection method. Under the class interval methods also there are two methods. One is known as block sampling and one is known as cluster sampling. Block sampling and with sampling, cluster sampling. Clear everyone? Now you have to understand one fact that what is the common thing in the first two methods you have found? What is the common thing in the first two methods? In the first two methods, the common thing is we are doing the random selection. Am I correct or not? We are doing the which selection? Random selection, right? So first common method is we are doing the random selection. And in the next two methods, what is the common thing? The next two methods where the common thing is you will find that there is one class interval including in those methods, right or not? So there will be one class interval. Now try to understand this thing very carefully. Try to understand this thing very carefully. What do you mean by simple random selection method? Now I'm going to give you the example of each and every method so that you can understand. And after doing all these four methods, I will ask you one simple question and you have to give me the answer of that question. That is nothing but going to be the conclusion of our methods of audit sampling topic. Simple random selection method may give me the answer. Say for example, there is there is a huge population of purchase invoices. There's a huge population of which invoices? Purchase invoices. And this is a homogeneous population. It's a which population? Homogeneous population. So there is a homogeneous population of all the purchase invoices. And when you're going to select a sample, when you're going to select a sample on the random basis, on the which basis? When you're going to select a sample on the random basis out of whole population where each item is having equal chance of being selected, where each item is having equal chance of being selected is known as simple random selection method. Are you getting the point or not? It's a very simple definition and very easy definition. So, in case there is a homogeneous population of the items and you select a sample on a which basis? Random basis out of the whole population, where the each item in the population is having an equal chance of being selected, is known as what? Simple random selection method. That is what we mean by simple random selection method. Clear, everyone? That is what we mean by simple random selection method. But there are some disadvantages of this method. What is the disadvantage of this method? Disadvantage number one, it is only restricted to which population? Tell me, everyone.
Homogeneous.
Yes, it is
Homogeneous.
only restricted to homogeneous population. It is only restricted to homogeneous population. Second one, least used, least result oriented, least used, least result oriented, and least efficient method. Least efficient method. Less favorable when it comes to auditor's choice. When it comes to whose choice? Auditor's choice. It is very much less favorable method. This is what do you mean by simple random selection method. So there's a homogeneous population. You are selecting the items from the population randomly, where each and every item in the population is having an equal chance of being selected. There are disadvantages of this method. It is only restricted to homogeneous population, least use method, least result oriented method, least efficient method, and less favorable when it comes to the auditor's choice. So most of the times auditors do not use this method. Why? Because the chances of non-detection of frauds and errors will be higher. And at the same point of time, being a heterogeneous population, it is not at all a useful method in that case, right? Then the limitations of the method number one got improvised in the method number two. So what is method number two? Method number two is known as stratified random selection method. Sir, what do you mean by stratified random selection method? So here the example is, suppose there's a heterogeneous population now. There's a which geneous? Heterogeneous population, and same purchase invoices are there. There's a heterogeneous population and same what? Purchase invoices are there. So what we are going to do? We are going to simply divide the big population into what?
Small
Small
homogeneous.
subpopulation, and each small subpopulation is known as what? Stratas, right or not? Yes. So what we are going to do, 10% one side, 5% one side, 18% one side, 12% one side, 15% one side, and 20% on one side. So what we did, the same population we divided into subpopulation. So here each subpopulation is known as what? Stratum. Each subpopulation is known as stratum. So this is called stratification. So point number one, it is a heterogeneous population. It is a heterogeneous population. Point number two, first the auditor shall do stratification. First, the auditor shall do the stratification, which means dividing the whole population into small subpopulations, and where each subpopulation is known as stratum. And remember one thing, you can call it as stratum also, and you can call it as strata also. There are two names of the population. You can call it as stratum and you can call it as strata also. Later on, now tell me everyone, now we are going to do the random selection from each and every stratum, or we are going to do the random selection out of stratums?
Each and
Each and
every
every stratum,
stratum.
yes. Later on, random selection will be done. Random selection will be done from each and every stratum. Right or not? What is the advantage? Can be useful in both situations. Either it is homogeneous or it is heterogeneous population. Advantage number two, highly efficient, favorable, and result oriented method. Result oriented method. So this is what do you mean by the method number two, called what? Stratified random selection method. Clear? Now what is the third method, everyone? The third method name is known as block sampling. Now what do you mean by block sampling? Now listen to this thing. Now block sampling and cluster sampling are going to come under the class interval methods. In the block sampling, there are so many similarities like stratified random selection method, but little bit difference you will find in the method here. What is the difference? Try to understand this situation. Example, suppose there are yearly sales. We are verifying what? Yearly sales. Now, what do you mean by yearly sales? I will divide the yearly sales into 12 blocks. What do you mean by 12 blocks? From April to March. So every month sales are there. So I divided the sales into 12 blocks from April to March. Now, after dividing, now tell me, did I do the stratification again or not? Tell me everyone. The total yearly sales of population, I divided it into 12 blocks from April to March. Now, did I do the stratification again? Yes, I did the stratification again. I divided the big population into what? Small subpopulation. But what I'm going to do is, tell me any 5 random selection dates. Tell me any 3 or 4 random dates of every month. Just tell me the random dates of April month. Any 3 random dates which are coming to your mind. Okay, the first 4 or 3 random dates which are coming to my mind is, say for example, 7th April or 21st April or 17 April or 29th April. Are you getting the point? Say for example, these are the, yes, you are also correct, Komal. So my random dates which came in my mind are 7th, 21st, 17th and 29th. Now what did I do? In the first block, I selected 4 dates randomly. In the first block, I selected 4 dates randomly, and the remaining blocks mein, in the remaining blocks, same criteria of block of transactions will be followed. will be followed. What do you mean by that? Say for example, in the April I chose 7th April, 17th April, 21st April, 29th April. Are you getting the point or not? I chose these four random dates. I'm not saying I use any kind of systematic or mathematical formula. Just these are the four random dates I chose. Now the first block of transactions I chose randomly. Now remember one thing, the remaining blocks may the criteria will be same which I have chosen in the first block. It means when I will verify the sales of May month, so 7th May, 21st May, 17th May, 29th May. The same thing when I'll do it in the June month, 7th June, 21st June, 17th June, 29th June. Same thing when I'll do it in the March month, 7th March, 21st March, 17th March, and 29th March. My question is very simple to all of you. Am I doing the random selection again and again in every block, or I did it only in the first block of transaction? In the no, I did it only in the first block of transaction, whereas the remaining blocks are automatically following the first block consistently or not?
Yes.
Yes or no? I chose only the four random dates in the April block of transactions. In the May block, same four random dates. In the June block, same four random dates. July to March, same random four dates. Are you getting the point? Now, what is the relevance of class interval in this method? Tell me, what is the gap between 5th, 7th April to 7th May? 1 month. What is the gap between 29th April to 29th May? 1 month. So remember one thing, class interval of 1 month is coming from one block to the another block. That is why it is known as class interval method. Here the class interval is same, and that is the reason it is known as block sampling. So again, let me tell you what do you mean by block sampling. Little bit of concentration is required and the whole block sampling will go inside your head. Block sampling is a method in which the auditor again will use the stratification method. Now tell me, did I divide the whole yearly sales into the 12 blocks of 12 months or not? Yes.
Yes.
Where each subpopulation is not going to be called as strata now. Are you getting now? We are going to call it as a blocks. Are you getting now? Instead of strata, we are going to call it as a blocks. Point number one. In this method, the auditor will select the first block of transactions on random basis. In this, the auditor will select the first block of transactions on random basis. Tell me the first four random, what do you say, dates I chose. 7th April, 21st April, 17th April, 29th April. Now, in the remaining blocks, same dates will be followed consistently. So it means the remaining blocks are automatically following the first block of transaction. So random selection is done in each and every block, or random selection was done only in the first block of transaction.
First block.
Yeah. So what is the major difference between second method and third method you found? In the second method, did we do the random selection from each and every stratum or not? Yes, we did the random selection in each and every stratum. Here we did the random selection only on first block, only on the first block, and remaining block automatically followed the first block. That is what the major difference between stratified random selection method and the block sampling method. So let me write what is block sampling method. Here also auditor does stratification. That is a point number one. Here also auditor does stratification. Each subpopulation, here it is known as stratum or here it is known as block?
Block.
Yes, each subpopulation here it is known as what? Block. Next, only the first block of transactions, only the first block of transactions will be selected on which basis?
Random basis.
On random basis. Only the first block of transaction will be selected on a random basis, whereas remaining blocks shall follow the criteria of selection of first block automatically, whereas the remaining block shall follow the criteria of selection of the first block automatically. It means either it is the month of June, July, August, September, May, October, November, December, whatever the month, we are not going to do any random selection. We are going to follow the same dates which we first selected in the month of April. So in the random selection method, under the stratified method, we did the random selection in each and every stratum. But here we are only doing the random selection in the first block of transaction, and the remaining blocks are automatically following the first block, right or not? That is what the major difference between this method number 2 and 3. Now, what is the fourth method? Fourth method is known as cluster sampling, everyone. I will ask you a very important conclusion at the end. Please be ready for that conclusion. Fourth method में what we'll do, example. Same example I'm going to take so that you can have a comparison between the last three methods. Here also I'm verifying the purchase invoices. Here also I'm verifying the purchase invoices. Now, here also I divided the population into 6 populations. 10% purchase invoices, 5%, 18%, 12%, 15%, and say for example 25%, 20% GST. Now, listen to this very carefully, everyone. In the method number 2, I did the random selection from each and every stratum. Now, first of all, tell me, here also did I follow the stratification or not? Yes, here also I followed the stratification. In the method number 2, each subpopulation is known as what? Stratum. In the method number 3, each and every subpopulation is known as what? Block. But in this method, each and every subpopulation is going to be known as what? Cluster. What we are going to call it as? Cluster. So here it is known as cluster. It is not a stratum. Here it is stratum. Here it is cluster. After that, what we did in the method number 2? In the method number 2, we did the random selection from each and every stratum. Am I correct or not? But here, we are going to do the random selection among the clusters. What is the difference you found? What is the difference you found? Now, I'm not doing the random selection from each and every cluster. I'm doing the random selection among the clusters. It means I may choose some transactions from 10%. I may not choose it from 15%. I may choose it from 5%. May not choose it from 18%. May choose it from 12%. May not choose it from 20%. Are you getting the point or not? Again, repeating. In the stratified random selection method, you were doing the random selection from each and every stratum. But here, I'm doing the random selection among the clusters. It means, let me use another color. I may choose this. I may not choose that. I may choose this. I may not choose that. I may choose this. I may not choose that. Now tell me, did I do random selection from each and every cluster or random selection among the clusters?
Among the clusters.
Among the clusters. So that method, that is the only thin line of difference between the last cluster sampling and the stratified random selection method, right or not? So let me write it. After that, I'll ask you the difference. Here also, auditor does stratification. Here also, the auditor does stratification. And each subpopulation here is known as clusters.
Cluster.
Yes, each subpopulation here is known as cluster. But the auditor, instead of doing random selection from each and every cluster. Instead of doing random selection from each and every cluster, he is doing random selection among the clusters. He is doing random selection where? Among the clusters, which makes it different from stratified random selection method. Did you get the point or not? Which makes it different from stratified random selection method. Instead of doing the random selection from each and every stratum, here the auditor did the random selection among the clusters. Are you getting the point? So my question is very simple, everyone. Conclusion. Please give me the conclusion. Which one is the best method among all the 5 methods we have done? Among all the 4 methods we have done. Which one is the best method where you will get the best out of best results?
Stratified. Stratified.
Yes, method number 2. Stratified random selection method is the 99.99% choice of the auditors. Not only 99.99, you can say that 100% choice of the auditors. Are you getting the point? No more nowadays block sampling is used. No more nowadays a cluster sampling is used. No more nowadays a simple random selection method is used. So which one is our best method? The best method is stratified random selection method. Can I ask you the question why? Why it is the best method? Chances of non-detection of frauds and errors are highest here or the lowest here? Low, huh? Highest, huh? Lowest, yes. So chances of non-detection of frauds and errors or ROMM are lowest here, right or not? That is the only reason is stratified random selection method is now favorable when it comes to the audit sampling. So this one used to be there in the olden days. This one very rare case where it will be used. I don't have used it. I have not used it so far in my own thing. This one also I didn't use. Definitely I will go for that method because first of all though we will be in a position to do the random selection from each and every stratum, and at the same point of time I can say to myself, okay, at least 1 or 2 invoices from each and every stratum I have verified. So yes, chances are there, but less chances of frauds and errors are there. So that brings an end to the another topic called methods of audit sampling. So let us understand it from our material, whether we are left with some other things or not in our material. Right? Give me 1 second. Anyone is having any kind of doubt? Okay. So appropriateness of sampling approaches. So the topics which are extra to be covered by us in the audit sampling topic is what are the advantages of statistical sampling? Now, first of all, tell me, do you understand yesterday what is the major difference between statistical and non-statistical sampling? Now, tell me what is the major difference? Huh? Where the
Scientific method.
yes, which one is a scientific and mathematical method?
Statistical method.
Statistical. And which one is completely based upon the personal experience, professional judgment of an auditor? Non-statistical. Which one is required to be used highly? Statistical
Statistical
sampling
method.
is always more preferable because sometimes the judgment of an auditor may get biased or may get what? Partial. That's the reason it has been told that it's better to use the which method?
Statistical.
Statistical method. Now, advantages of statistical method, everyone. It is there in front of you. the amount of testing does not increase in proportion to the increase in size of the population. What do you mean by that? See, mathematical formula is same. Mathematical formula is same. The sample size does not increase in proportion to the increase in the area tested. Now, say for example, uh, there is one formula which is saying that yes, this much of sample size only should be selected irrespective of the size of population. So here, the biggest thing which you will come to know that here sample size does not change by the change of size of the population. Point number two, the sample selection is more objective and more defensible. So I will tell you the best method to how to retain that. If you know the criticism of a non-statistical sampling which you have done yesterday, if you'll do the positivity of that negative points, it will become the positive points of what?
Statistical
Statistical
sampling.
sampling. Are you getting the point or not? So it is neither, you can see that non-statistical sampling, what is given? It is neither objective nor scientific. I'll come back to you, Komal, on that. Don't worry. Okay. So it is neither objective nor scientific. Now, if you will write it in a positive way, what will be the statistical method advantage?
It is objective and
Objective or
scientific.
scientific. So I think that is the best method by which you can retain it. But let us read it for 1 or 2 minutes. Like what is the advantages of that? Sample selection is more objective and therefore more defensible. Right or not? What do you mean by defensible? If somebody will come to me and will say that on what basis you selected this sample, I'll say that I used or I selected this sample on the basis of some mathematical formula. Now tell me, my judgment somebody can question, there is no doubt. But can somebody question the statistics? No, somebody cannot question the statistics. So I may defend myself in a more better manner if I'm using the statistical method. This method provides a means of estimating the minimum sample size associated with a specified risk and precision. Yes, it is very precise method. And yes, um, please mute yourself, right or not? Now see, what is the meaning of this method? This method provides you the minimum sample size associated with the specified risk and precise method. So very clear and very precise method. There is a non-calculated risk when it comes to the non-statistical method because there my personal experience, my professional knowledge and my professional judgment is playing the role. But here we are using everything mathematically. We are using everything systematically. We are doing the pros and cons. We are applying the permutations and combination. Therefore, calculated risk is there when it comes to what? Statistical sampling. So, uncalculated risk in case of non-statistical sampling, calculated risk in case of what? Statistical sampling. Right? Next one. It may provide a better description of large mass of data than a complete examination of a data since non-sampling errors are such as processing and clerical mistakes are not at large. Yes, very simple point they are saying that. Acha, tell me one thing. In the statistical and in the non-statistical, where the chances of more human error are there?
Statistics.
In the statistical and non-statistical, where the chances of more human error are there? Definitely in the
Both.
non-statistical. Are you getting the point? Because you are using your professional judgment. Even if you are a 40 years old practicing CA or you are a 40 days old practicing CA, both of them will do some mistakes. Are you getting the point? Because human is a statue of error. You cannot say that I'm now 60 years old, I will never do the mistake in my life. No, mistakes, errors are the part of your life, and at every stage of life you do definitely do some mistakes, right or not? So basically I will suggest you that if you know the meaning of or if you know the disadvantages of non-statistical sampling, it's better to convert those disadvantages into what? Advantages. So if I have to tell you the keywords to be remembered, so what is the first keyword I can suggest you to remember here is, listen, the keyword number one, size of the population, size of sample, does not increase or decrease with size of what? Population. Point number one. Like that, you can remember that in a simple way. More objective. Oh, sorry. Less objective. More defensive. Less objective. More defensive. Next one. Minimum sample size involved. Point number four. Calculated risk involved. Point number five. Less human error, or you can say that clerical mistakes. Just remember these as the keywords to retain for a longer period of time. Did you get the point or not? So this is what how you have to do. Or in the fourth method, minimum sample size involved, clear and precise. So what are the 5 advantages of a statistical sampling, everyone? Tell me, what are the 5 advantages? Let's do the revision. What are the 5 advantages? Advantage number 1, size of sample varies or does not vary?
Not very.
Does not vary. With what? Size of population. Second, calculated risk is always there. Third one, everyone, precise
Yes.
and clear method. And which sample is involved? Minimum sample.
Samples.
Precise and clear method. Minimum sample is in. Point number 5. Point number 4.
Objective, more defensive.
Yes. Objective, less, and defensive, more. Point number 5 में less involvement of human or clerical errors.
Well, it should be more objective, right?
More objective? No, it should be less objective. Why more?
Sure.
What do you mean? What do you mean by objectivity?
Unbiased. Yes.
Wait.
In the notes also it is written
Less. Wait. Yes. एक second. I'm thinking objectivity in the more. Yes. Very nice. Thank you so much. I was thinking about objectivity being partial and unbiased. I was in the non-statistical era when I was thinking about that. So it is more. Very nice. So it is more objective and more defensive, everyone. Did you all understand why it is more? More
Yes.
objective means,
Yes.
yeah, less impartial and less unbiased. Because if it is a non-statistical sampling, we may increase or decrease the sample size as per my suitability or as per my requirement. So I may become partial, I may become biased. So in that case, I'll be less objective. Yes. So if we'll write the opposite of that, can I say that same is going to be what?
Non-statistical.
Non-statistical sampling, right? So either you do the disadvantages of the non-statistical and convert them into advantage, or you can do one thing, you know the advantage of statistical and convert them into disadvantage of a non-statistical, one of the same thing only, right? Now let us understand the three things. What are the three things we have to understand? Sample size, size of the sample design, size of the sample, and selection of the sample. So three things. How shall we do the designing of the sample? How shall we select the size of the sample, and how shall we do the selection of the sample. So what should be the design of the sample? What should be the size of the sample? And how should we select the sample? That we are going to understand. When designing an audit sample, the auditor shall consider the purpose of the audit procedures and the characteristics of the population from which the sample will be drawn. The auditor shall determine a sample size sufficient to reduce the sampling risk to an acceptable low level. The auditor shall select items for the sample in such a way that each sampling unit in the population has a chance of selection. So basically, the design is based upon what? The design is based upon purpose of audit procedures. It is based upon features of population. Next one, it is based upon random selection. Tell me everyone, am I correct or not? The design of the sample is based upon what kind of audit procedures you are following. Everyone, please tell me what is the difference between TOT and TOB. What is TOT? Testing of transactions. And what is TOB? Testing of balances. So tell me, in both the cases, the assertions will remain same or it will differ? Almost it will remain same, but there are so many assertions which are different also. Tell me one thing, will you check the existence in case of transactions or occurrence in case of transaction? Occurrence. Are you getting the point? But what you will check in case of assets and liabilities? Existence. Am I correct or not? Or if I have to ask you very one thing, if I have to ask you very simple thing, if you are doing TOC and TOD, testing of controls and testing of details, where your sample size will be more and where your sample size will be less?
Testing of control is less.
Yes, and testing of details may it will be
Oh.
more. So point number one is what kind of audit procedure you are going to apply. That will also help you in designing your audit sample. Second thing, features of the population. Features of the population. Tell me one thing, what if it is a homogeneous population and what if it is a heterogeneous population where you are going to follow stratification and where you need not follow the stratification?
If I want to know the total population of the country, I go into sample size.
No. I'm saying that there is a homogeneous population and there is a heterogeneous population. This is the characteristic of the population. Am I correct or not? Where you would like to go for a sampling, where you would like to go for a stratification, and where you would not like to go for a stratification. Yes. Homogeneous, heterogeneous. Where stratification required, where stratification not required.
Heterogeneous means stratification.
Heterogeneous mere stratification. So it means, can I say that a feature of the population will also help us in designing the sample size? Yes. And most important thing, what is the criteria of our selection? It should be a biased selection or it should be a random selection? It should be a random selection. And what do you mean by random selection? Where every item in the population will get an equal chance of being selected. Am I correct or not? Yes. So this is what are the three things you have to understand. If whenever we are designing our audit sample, make sure that you should understand what is the purpose of your audit procedure. What are the characteristics of your population? And most importantly, are you going to do the random selection or not? Now see. When designing the audit sample, auditor's consideration includes specific purpose to be achieved and the combination of audit procedure that is likely to best achieve that purpose. Considering the nature of the audit evidence sought and possible deviation, misstatement, condition, or other characteristics to the will assist the auditor in defining what constitutes a deviation, misstatement, and what population to use for sampling. In fulfilling the requirement of SA 500 audit evidence, when performing the audit sampling, the auditor performs the audit procedure to obtain evidence that the population from which the audit sample is going to be drawn. It's a very simple thing, guys. What do you understand by the term called deviation? Now, do you remember yesterday I told you some tolerable error range concept?
Yes.
Yes. So what do you mean by tolerable errors, everyone? What do you understand by the term called tolerable error? It
Plus
is,
or minus.
yes, it is that amount of errors which you can't tolerate or which is acceptable to you.
Acceptable.
So say for example, if I'm verifying 100 items and out of that 95 should come positive and 5 should come negative, what is my tolerable error range?
5.
5%. So it means my actual acceptance level is 100 only, but I can still deviate from 100 by how many percentage?
5%.
5%. Are you getting the point? So it means my level of deviation is 5%. But if my level of deviation is going to be violated by the results, should I increase or decrease my sample size accordingly or not?
Yes.
Yes. So that is how you do the sample design, everyone. Did you get the point? The auditor's consideration purpose of the audit procedure includes a clear understanding of what constitutes a deviation or misstatement so that all and only those conditions that are relevant to the purpose of audit procedure. Now, in the test of details relating to existence of debtors. Now, example is given. Suppose we are doing the TOD in relation to debtors and we want to check the existence of debtor. It means which assertion we are testing? Existence of debtors we are testing, such as confirmation, payments made by the customer before confirmation date but received shortly after the date by the client are not considered as misstatement. Also, a misposting between customer accounts does not affect the total accounts receivable balance. Can anybody make me understand this example? What the lawmaker is trying to tell you? Read the whole example and let me know what is the meaning of this example. Read the whole example, everyone. I need a clarification. What do you mean by this? What the lawmaker is trying to tell you in this examination?
Purpose.
There are two examples in the same.
Hmm.
Uh, if the customer has paid before the confirmation date, but the amount is received after,
Hmm.
then there will be timing difference.
Yeah,
This is
it's
not
a
considered
very
as
simple thing,
mistake.
guys. It's a very simple thing. Suppose there's a debtor who has given me a check. He has given me the check before the due date only. It means whether his intention is clear to make my payment or not.
Yes.
Yes, I deposited that check in the account, and due to 2-3 bank holidays came, now check got cleared after 5 days. It means due date is over, and after the due date of 5 days more it took to clear my payment. Now, should I blame my debtor in that case?
No.
No, he to made the payment before the due date or not? Yes. So will that be considered as a misstatement, everyone, or will not be considered as a misstatement?
Will not miss.
Will not be
Will not.
considered as a misstatement. That is what you have to understand. One point. Second point, misposting between the customer's account does not affect the total accounts receivable balance. Suppose there is one debtor who made the payment, but I credit it to another debtor. Now tell me one thing. Is there any disagreement of the balance sheet in that case?
No.
No. Balance will remain same. Are you getting the point or not? Trial balance will remain same and balance sheet also will agree. So that will also will not be treated as a misstatement. So remember one thing, what to be treated as a misstatement, what not to be treated as a misstatement, that is dependent upon the professional judgment of an auditor. Just because there are little bit delay of the payment credited to your account or just because of the misposting, you cannot call it as it's a huge deviation. Why this thing has happened? These are known as clerical errors, which are always having a
Human
soft
error.
corner from the auditor's point of view. Clear or not? Yes or no?
Human error.
Yeah, human error. Yes, you can say that. So that is what this example was given here to make you understand what do you mean by deviation. You can't call it as a, just give me 1 second. Okay. So did you understand the meaning of deviation here? So everything which is deviating or everything which is changing from your expectation will not be shortlisted as a deviation, because deviation can be of two types. It can be intentional, it can be Acha, say for example, if you found out that ki your debtor has intentionally given you the check in such a way that next 1 week he knows that ki bank holiday is there. That's the reason 1 or 2 days he did the delay and gave you the check by saying some excuse. Then in that case, what is the intention of that debtor? To intentional make the delay or to unintentionally make the delay?
Intentionally make the delay.
Intent. Then it is known as deviation. Then in that case, you can say that yes, it is a clear case of misstatement. Did you understand the point or not? Yes. Now, therefore, it may not be appropriate to consider this as a misstatement in evaluating the sample results, even though it may have an important effect on other areas such as assessment of the risk of fraud and adequacy of the allowance for doubtful account. In considering the characteristics of population for the test of controls, the auditor makes assessment of expected rate of deviation based on auditor's understanding of the relevant control. Do you remember yesterday also I told you one concept of expected errors? Everyone, please tell me, what if the internal control system of my client is very poor? What should I do to my sample size?
Increase.
I will increase my sample size. Why I am increasing my sample size? Because expectation of errors is going to be higher or lower in that case? Higher. So tell me one thing, what is the relationship you found between expected error and sample size?
Direct.
Yes, direct relationship. Do you remember that yesterday we have done this concept also? Yes, so that is what same
Yes.
things which we have already done are nothing but written in front of you. And stratification, though you already know. What do you mean by stratification, everyone? When the big population is divided into what? Small populations. And each sub-small population is known as what? Stratum. We do it to increase our sampling risk or we do it to decrease our sampling risk? Decrease our sampling risk, right or not? What do you mean by stratification, everyone? Audit efficiency may be improved if the auditor stratifies a population by dividing it into the discrete subpopulation which have an identifying characteristic. The objective of the stratification is to reduce the variability of items within each stratum and therefore allow sample size to reduce without increasing what? Sampling risk. So that is what we mean by stratification. That I already told you the concept of stratification, but it is given here so you can do that. Yes. When perform test of details, while performing the test of details, the population is often stratified by monetary value. This allows greater audit effort to be directed to the larger value items as these items may contain the greatest potential of misstatement. Acha, everyone, let me give you one example of that. Suppose there is one box and this box is having sales invoices. Now my client is saying, sir, there are rupees 100 of sales invoices also and there are 100 crores worth of sale invoice also. To tell me everyone, the range is very small or range is very huge? What is the range of invoices? from 100 to 100 crores worth of invoices are there. It means 100 rupees invoices are also there and 100 crores worth of invoices are also there. So some invoices are 500, 600, 700 and some invoices are running into the crores and crores. So range is very huge, everyone. So tell me one thing, is it possible to do the simple random selection method in this case, or you have to do the stratification in this case?
Stratification.
Stratification. Can you please tell me, can I say that I will do the stratification in this way? I will do 0 to 1 lakh, 1 lakh to 10 lakh, 10 lakhs to 1 crore, 1 crore to 10 crore, 10 crore to 100 crores, and more than 100 crores. Am I correct or not? Did I do the stratification? Now tell me, everyone, where the chances of high misstatement are going to be there? With the
Higher,
low amount of invoices or high amount of invoices?
higher amount of
So tell me where my sample size is going to be highest.
10 lakh to 1 crore to 10 lakh.
In all the last
More than
4 May, in the last 4 May, my sample size is going to be very high. Because am I doing TOD here or not? Now tell me, am I just not verifying some invoices and verifying some invoices, or I'm going to verify each and every type of invoice? I'm going to verify each and every type of invoice. It means I'm doing TOD. But my question is where my sample size will be more, in the upper 2 types of samples or in the last 4 types of samples? Because higher the size of the transaction, higher will be the chances of ROMAM or not. Yes, that's the reason. That is what is being written here in that. So this population, this whole paragraph is nothing but told you in the form of what? Example here, right or not? Rest already we did. Regarding the sample size, so I already told you what are the 4 factors we did which helps us in selecting a sample size, everyone. Sampling risk, yesterday we have done the last topic. Sampling risk, non-sampling risk, and expected error, and which error? Tolerable error. Everyone please tell me, what do you mean by non-sampling risk and what do you mean by sampling risk? Komal, please tell me. I hope yesterday you understood.
Uh,
What do you understand by sampling and non-sampling risk?
Sampling risk is the one where if we have done
Yes.
audit of the full population,
Mhm.
the conclusion may differ from that.
And obviously the
And
conclusion will be better in case of full checking instead of what? Test checking.
so
And that is
there,
only because of sampling risk involved in the test checking. Am I correct or not?
yes,
Yes. Then what do you mean by non-sampling risk?
any other risk other than sampling risk,
Mm.
like
Yes, PET, PET. When the auditor makes a good judgment or makes a poor judgment.
poor judgment.
Yeah, poor judgment in selecting his PET. Everyone. What is PET, everyone? Procedures, evidences, and techniques. Instead of going for external evidence, he went for internal. Instead of going for inspection, he went for observation. Or say, for example, instead of going for a RAP, he did what? FAP. Or instead of going for TOC or TOD, he went for TOC. So, whenever the auditor makes a wrong judgment in selecting his procedures, evidences, and techniques, that risk is called as non-sampling risk. So, it is purely not based upon on your sampling risk. It is purely based upon the poor judgment of an auditor, right or not? And what is the relationship between expected error and sample size, everyone?
Direct relationship.
Direct relationship. And what is the relationship between tolerable error and sample size?
Indirect.
So that methods though we have already done. We have already done this factors influencing the sample size. Clear or not? So examples of factors, these are the examples given. Now, everyone, I want you to read this paragraph and tell me if you don't understand anything. Read this paragraph just for 1 minute in the bold letter. The higher the auditor's assessment of ROMAM, the larger the sample size needs to be. Auditor's assessment of ROMAM is affected by the inherent risk and control risk. Sir, what do you mean by inherent risk and what do you mean by controlled risk? That we are going to understand in 315. Right or no? For example, if the auditor does not perform the test of controls, the auditor's risk assessment cannot be reduced for the effective operation of internal control with respect to particular assertion. Therefore, in order to reduce the audit risk to an acceptable level, auditor needs a low detection risk and will rely more on substantive procedures. The more audit evidence that is obtained from the test of details, that is lower the detection risk, the larger the sample size will be. Thus, we can say that there will be increase in sample size in case of increase in the auditor's assessment of ROMUM. Everyone, please tell me, very simply, you please tell me, in the audit procedure, what is the first procedure we follow? RAP or FAP? In the audit procedure, what is the first procedure we follow? RAP. RAP gives us what idea? RAP gives us what idea? It gives us an idea about the ROMUM or not? RAP gives us an idea about ROMUM. My question is very simple. If you think that the ROMUM is high, are you going to go for TOC or you are going to go for TOD? And if the ROMUM you think that is low, are you going to go for TOC or you are going to go for TOD? Very simple question. Everyone, please answer. If the ROMUM is very high, I will not go for TOC. I will go for what? TOD. And if I'm going for TOD, what will be my sample size? If I'm going for TOD, everyone, what will be my sample size? Will it be increased or will it be decreased?
Increase.
Increased. And if the ROMUM is less and the TOD I will go for or TOC I will go for?
POC.
TOC, because I can believe their controls. So I will go for not TOD, I'll go for TOC. What will happen to my sample size?
Increase.
Decrease. So it means if the ROMUM has to establish a relationship with the sample size, what kind of relationship you will establish?
Direct relation.
Direct relation. That's what the purpose of this whole paragraph. Clear or not? So there is a direct relationship between the ROMUM and sample size. Higher the ROMUM, higher will be a sample size. Lower the ROMUM, lower will be a sample size. Clear everyone? Yes or no? So all that which I told you are nothing but 2-3 examples have been given over here so that you can understand it. And there is only one small topic which we are left with, that is called data analytics and methods of sampling. So we have already done now, everyone. Yes, this topic is only left in our whole chapter, that is called what? Data analytics. And this topic, data analytics, we have it again in which chapter? We have it in the audit of automated environment. Simple random selection method we done with, stratified random selection, class interval methods we are done with. We are done with block sampling also. We know the difference between sampling and non-sampling risk also. Right or not? And we know what do you mean by deviation and misstatement also. I think yes. We are done left with the one topic only called, that is called data analytics. And data analytics ka topic, guys, I will tell you in the evening session, because Raja sir told me that you all are articleship students and you have to leave by 9 o'clock, right or not? So it is almost 5 to 9. So we'll do one thing. We'll meet for the data analytics in the evening. It will take 5 to 10 minutes to make you understand. And after that, we are going to start with the topic called what? Analytical procedures. Our standard number essay 520. Once the 520 will be over, then in that case, I can say that your whole 500 series will be over. Then we will be doing 315 risk assessment and internal control. That will take another 2 classes. And then we will start with the chapter called audit of different items and audit of different entities. And almost our 90% of the portion will be over by the time those 2 chapters will be over. Then only the patchwork will be left. And regarding the patchwork, we'll be having another 4-5 days. And I think by 15th of this month, maximum, I'm saying maximum, by the 15th of this month, your portion should be over, right, everyone? So thank you so much, everyone. See you guys in the evening. Evening, as usual, 7 to 9 we are going to meet. Okay. Bye everyone. All the very best for your day. Good day. Good day, all of you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Pleasure.